First and Now is brought to you by World Vision Canada, national charity partner of the BC Lions. Visit bclions.com/worldvision to become a supporter. First and Now is on 730 CKNW, home of your BC Lions. Matt Baker alongside Bob Marjanovic and Nicholas Kowalski. And fellas, it's Winnipeg week, but first of all, we had our first Victory Monday yesterday of the season, and feels pretty good to start off on a winning note, does it? No.
Yeah, I mean, clearly the game, the home opener, the season opener was a victory on all fronts. I mean, the Snoop Dogg concert prior, getting so many fans engaged. The game itself started off a little sluggish on the Lions side, but they picked it up, cleaned a few things up, and had a great second half. And, of course, walk away with a victory and a great start to the season.
Yeah, 4-0 in concert kickoff performances now, so that's a good omen. And yeah, props to Amar Doman for knocking it out of the park again. Nick, content-wise, yourself, Liam, and a cast of thousands on the freelance side down there doing your thing. But overall, your impressions over a pretty solid night.
They just seem to get bigger and better, these concert kickoffs, right?
I
think in my opinion, that was my favorite concert of the four so far. Snoop Dogg is such an entertainer. Mm-hmm. We put out that great video yesterday of Snoop Dogg throwing out footballs after he finished his show, and that's something that obviously will give those kids a lifetime memory, right? And hopefully the goal that Amar sets out is that you want these people that come to these concert kickoffs to want to come back and tell their parents and tell their grandparents, hey, I want to go to the BC Lions game. And I can guarantee you those kids with those Snoop Dogg footballs, they're coming back for June 21st.
Well, you know, the big thing is this, it's a promo, right? And anytime you run a promotion, you're not going to hit 100% in terms of getting everybody there, I mean, there's going to be a lot of people that, there were people that showed up, probably left out the Snoop Dogg concert, but as my good partner, David Pratt would say, Matt Baker, you want the truth, follow the money. Here's the thing. This is going well, and I'll tell you why. Because Amar Doman keeps doing it over and over and over, and the acts are getting bigger, which tells you that he looks at this as a success. He looks at it as a recipe to get more fans engaged, and more fans are being engaged. So it's a win. So I look at it, and man, like I was kidding around the other day with Julie on the broadcast, man, we're going to have Taylor Swift in 4 years.
Wouldn't put anything past it, to be honest with you.
I'm just saying, it just gets bigger and bigger, right?
Yeah, and I think I alluded to this on last week's show. It's become such a big event year in, year out, gets bigger, and we're getting asked by people in February, March, oh, what's the concert? Yeah. What's the concert? And that was more so we couldn't go out anywhere, in my Lions gear, whatever. What's the concert going to be?
It's become an event.
Yeah.
Right? People know it's coming, right? You don't got to tell people that it's coming. They know it's coming. And the next thing you got to do is tell people the instructions of when to get in and all these things, right? And that's something that we have to market on our ends instead of just making people aware that it's happening.
Yeah, and I guess kind of in closing too, right, it's a tribute to everyone in the organization working tirelessly around the clock. Carolyn Cody, of course, Jordan and the Game Ops crew, everybody. If you're a BC Lions staff member, definitely you put the work in, and that showed. It was another outstanding time.
Hey, forget about the music. Probably the most impressive thing about Snoop, taking off the rings, taking off the glasses, and then hitting the upper deck with a pass. Hey, for people that don't know, that is not easy.
No.
Like, you were like almost throwing straight up, and he got the upper deck. I was impressed with that. And of course, for people that don't know, Snoop has a real background in football. He has his own youth league in Southern California. He's been involved as a coach for many years, so he loves the game. And to see him interact like that with the fans was great.
Yeah, so good. Year in, year out, and we will look forward to what next year brings. And BC Lions follow it up on the field. A bit of a second half surge at 28 points, left some points out there in the opening half, but hey, that's going to happen. Still adjusting to new coaching staff, new offensive schemes. I'll tell you what, the defense, we'll talk about it shortly, but
hold on. A quarterback sneak on 2nd and 1 and a 3rd and 1, that is not a new offensive scheme. They've got to clean that up. They've got to clean that up, and it's something that's been addressed this week. I know it's something that the coaching staff, and even talking to Ryan Rigmaiden, that was, to me, that has to be cleaned up.
Yeah, and they'll work on that. You saw a bit of an emphasis if you were out at practice on Tuesday working on that aspect, and that's, you do the math. That's 7 points for sure. Javon Catoy drop, kick a field goal on that drive, so that's pretty much what, 10, 11 points left
11,
out there. Yeah. So,
But you know, the good thing is, and all the players talked about this, Buck Pierce has talked about how the team reacted, because you can go two ways when you have a half like that. You can continue to play poorly and not execute, or you can go out in the second half and turn things around. And the Lions did that. So that, to me, was another positive that came out of this game, is how they reacted.
And to me, that's just a factor of this team just being better. Like, it starts with Nathan Rourke. Nathan Rourke is a better quarterback today than he was last fall. Keon Hatcher is a better receiver today than he was last fall. James Butler, you could argue, is an upgrade at running back. The offensive line allowed 0 sacks with the healthy Dijon Allen at that right tackle. I think this team is just better, but yes, they did handle the adversity much better than a season ago.
yeah, Nathan Rourke on Monday, Tuesday, I should say, was honored as the Offensive Player of the Week. Top graded by Pro Football Focus. And 81% completion rate, 378 yards, the 3 second half touchdown passes. And it was Paul Lapalisse who mentioned on TSN that he was throwing with rhythm, and all that offseason work coming to fruition. And a great 107-yard touchdown drive. That was the second touchdown series of that third quarter. Nathan Rourke, happy for him, and because we've talked about him at length and just how different he's approached this offseason.
Well, to kind of echo what Paul Lapalisse was talking about, to me, the big thing was his processing and how quickly he was getting the ball out of his hands. 1, 2, 3, launch. There's not that double clutch that we saw a little bit last year. And, you know, the other thing, too, with Nathan, we've harped on this, and I think you guys have seen it. I think we've all seen it. Everyone that's been around this football team, he's just having fun again. He's more relaxed. And Nathan talked about this in training camp with us. He said, hey, he goes, you know, it just felt like he had all this pressure on him. And he thought, if I make a bad throw here, is this going to cost me? Right. And it, like he said, it took him a while to step away from that and to realize that, hey, if he makes a bad throw, he's not going to get cut or shoved down the depth chart or lose reps because of it. And that bodes well for the way he's playing right now.
And you talk about a guy who's having fun. I think you naturally go to Stanley Berryhill too, right? I think in the offseason, we've done a good job on our side of things, marketing him as a fun, you know, entertaining player. And then on the field, he goes for 6 catches, 105 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And you're kind of like, whoa, this guy can be a weapon that was maybe lacking at times in terms of that downfield threat. Nathan Rourke hitting him too. And to talk about that first touchdown pass, I got to give a shout out to Rob Williams, because if you follow Nathan Rourke on Instagram, you probably see him sharing these QB motion videos that Nathan's training with all offseason. That first touchdown throw where Nathan's on the roll to his left, so his opposite side where you're naturally as a right-handed quarterback, that's a kind of unorthodox throw where you need proper mechanics. And that's something that Nathan works on. He works every single day with his quarterback coach, Rob Williams, on this. And that's something I immediately thought in the moment. That's all Rob with that throw and why Nathan is so good at his job.
He's worked with several quarterbacks of all ages, has Rob Williams. But anyway, you had Stanley Berryhill pegged, I think, last year in training camp as a good breakout candidate. And you feel good for a guy like that. You know, we talked about him in camp, missing some time with the injury, and, you know, these other receivers out there stepping it up. A feel-good story.
Well,
for sure.
to me, honestly, like, I remember talking with Julian, we were wondering if Stanley Berryhill was even going to make this team. And I say that because the competition at receiver in training camp was intense. And you had a player that had missed, 7 to 10 days because of that ankle injury. But obviously the team had faith in him. They believed that he was, you know, on the verge of doing something special. Yeah, it's one game. And I think when you look at this Lions receiving core this year, you're going to see the quote, the stars rotate. It's not going to be a focus on one player. I think Buck Pierce's offense is built that way. So you're going to see different players stepping up at different times. So this week it was Berryhill. Next week it could be Hatcher. The week after that it could be McInnes. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, a great start for Stanley Berryhill. And like we talked about it on the postgame show with them, he felt like he had validated the belief that the Lions had in him.
Want to get your thoughts on a couple guys on defense. Matthew Betts. We just saw again what prime Matthew Betts can look like. Led the CFL in week 1 with 10 quarterback pressures, several run stops. Kamoko Toure, another guy we were excited about coming out of camp, looked very promising, had 1 of 2 sacks on the night. I know you love talking defensive line. Just your thoughts on how they execute.
Well, the thing, too, with that defensive line, particularly with the edge rushers, is they kind of got a little shorthanded.
Yeah.
They came into the game. I mean, Nathan Cherry was listed as an edge guy, but Nathan not necessarily an edge guy, more of an interior guy. Sione Tuihema obviously suspended. for 2 games. Marcus Moore out of the lineup. Marcus can play off the edge if need be. He's very versatile. So they're a little shorthanded. So the really impressive part about that was the amount of reps that those players were getting and still being able to produce results. And that was obviously a big thing.
Nik, your thoughts on the defense overall? I mean, we talked amongst ourselves about how the tackling got better. There's some Gary Peters stuff that you're excited about. What'd you think overall?
I think first and foremost, we talked about this in the offseason, but Micah Alway and Deontay Williams is bringing that extra level of physicality. That was on display, obviously, right at the end of Deontay Williams, probably landing the hit of the year. It's a hit of the year right now, but I think that's probably going to stand for throughout their majority of the regular season. But man, oh man, Gary Peters, maybe a bit of a moment of silence here because he had that perfect game going until 40 seconds left. And by perfect game, I mean he had allowed 0 catches, the complete shutdown game we're used to seeing Gary Peters. And then he allows a catch that goes from -7 yards. So Gary Peters, he's still in his prime. I think if you know CFL football, you realize how good he is. And maybe he doesn't get that love because he doesn't get the stats where a guy like maybe Tyrell Ford or Roland Milligan gets a lot of targets, so they get those stats. But Gary Peters is as close to a shutdown corner as they come, and that was on full display on Saturday.
Yeah, and not much time. Buck Pierce, credit to him and the staff. They say 24 hours, enjoy it, and it's a quick turnaround into Winnipeg. What's with these early season trips to Winnipeg? Might as well get it over with early, but no, very much looking forward to this. We're going to talk a lot about Buck Pierce's return to Manitoba. And we'll get into some of the nuances with this one, particularly with Winnipeg's quarterback situation. In just a couple minutes, we'll speak with Darrin Bauming out of Bonfire Sports in Winnipeg. Does a great job covering the Blue Bombers and the CFL in general. Want to remind the listeners that as far as the on locations go, we'll be back July the 8th. Goodco Granville will do one on-location show a month. It's all a presentation of our great friends at Coors Light. Goodco Granville, there'll be some drink specials, food specials that will get ahead of time in terms of what those are. Player and uproar dancer appearances. Last week we had James Butler and Keon Hatcher. Just an excellent turnout at Goodco Main Street, moving toward downtown to Granville on July 8th, and more details to come throughout the season as far as our monthly on-location recordings. First and Now is a presentation of World Vision Canada, national charity partner of the BC Lions. What is the mood in Winnipeg? 3 straight Grey Cup losses, hosting it this year. Of course, we all know about the pressure that goes with hosting the big game. Darrin Bauming from Bonfire Sports to join us on First and Now. Back on First and Now, 730 CKNW, and wherever you get your podcast, the program presented by World Vision Canada, national charity partner of the BC Lions. Calling a quick audible here, Darrin Bauming from Bonfire Sports to join us in the next segment. Juggling things around, a lot happening in Manitoba. It is the Blue Bombers home opener. That was a big storyline out up there.
He knows I'm going to come hard after the Bombers. He's probably got to regroup.
You got some up your sleeve here.
I'm just tired of all the favoritism towards the Bombers, but we'll get into that in a bit.
Hey, there's only one way to stop it. Just be better than.
Oh, no, I mean, hey, give him props. I'm just.
Yeah. Well, we keep hearing about it. 5 straight Grey Cup appearances, 3 consecutive losses, and I might as well start with the big storyline, of course. Zach Collaros not available this week, serving his 1-game suspension, violating the drug policy and all of that. So we'll see Chris Streveler, of course. He coming off-season knee surgery, did that in the Banjo Bowl against Saskatchewan. But MOJ, talk about the timing here. Short week. We've talked about the emotional week 1 win. Is it a good time to see this Blue Bombers team?
Well, I mean, they're a good football club, and we're going to find out how good they are in the first game of the season. No Zach Collaros, only suspended for a game. He should be suspended for 2, but we'll get into that with Darrin. But yeah, I mean, this is a team that knows how to win. They've been to 5 straight Grey Cups. They always find new pieces to replace the old ones, and there's a few guys missing from this team. There's no Kenny Lawler. Buck Pierce has moved to BC. They've lost a couple of linemen, some linebackers. Adam Bighill is, I guess, into a forced retirement, whatever you want to call it. So it's going to be interesting to see how this Bomber team replaces a lot of those players.
Brady Oliveira, of course, in the backfield. That's a guy whose resume speaks for itself. We've talked a lot about the improved defensive line. Pretty big test, Nikki, for this group this time.
Yeah, and we were sort of joking at walkthrough last week that I kind of set a line of, hey, how many rushes are we going to see these first 2 weeks of the season? Like 79 and a half, and then both games like 40 apiece. Because Winnipeg, not only with Brady Oliveira, but also with Chris Streveler, who is more of a run-first quarterback, I'm interested to see what they do with their offense, right? And, coaches, obviously, when they go scout quarterbacks, they go and watch the film, right? They go and watch prior games. And by doing that, the tape that we can go back to last year is when Chris Streveler did start a game last season. Winnipeg played Ottawa, ran the ball 37 times for over 200 yards with Chris Streveler and Brady Oliveira combining for that total, right? So I think the stars are aligning where if you're Winnipeg, you're fresh, you're coming off a camp, off a bye week, and BC's coming off one practice this week. I mean, you got to think that Winnipeg is going to try and really pound the ball and see how this Lions defense reacts. And again, like we were talking about earlier, that is why you bring in Micah Alway. That is why Deontay Williams is a heavier person in that nickel position. You want to be physical, right? You got a guy like Dwayne Hendricks in the middle now too, who's impressive. Jonah Tavai taking strides. So that is where, in my opinion, this game is going to be won. Where how the BC Lions front seven can maximize and contain Brady Oliveira and Chris Streveler in the game.
That's the thing. I mean, that's what Winnipeg wants to do. They want to run the ball down your throat. They don't want Chris Streveler having to throw the football being down by 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. That's not Chris Streveler as a quarterback. Chris Streveler as a quarterback is a guy who, runs packages and basically runs the football. So you're right, Nick. That's the whole key of this game is stopping Brady Oliveira, stopping Chris Streveler, and making him a one-dimensional offense. If the Lions make this into a track meet, advantage BC because, if BC's putting up points and Winnipeg is forced to throw the football, I like BC's chances.
2 guys on their offense who have had a great chemistry with Collaros over the years. We'll see how the suspension has impacted. Dalton Schoen coming off an injury himself. And Nik Dembski. We talked in the opening segment about how Gary Peters, Mr. Lockdown there, it's going to be a nice little test for them as well.
Yeah, I mean, Nik Dembski is a player that I look at in this league and I really admire, and I really loved what Buck Pierce did with them over the course of the last few years. And that is, sometimes they line him up in the backfield. Sometimes he's a slot. Sometimes he's a receiver. They, motion him across the formation, hit him in the flat. I mean, he's such a multi-dimensional player with so many different skill sets. He's a guy that, and it's funny because when I look at this BC Lions offense right now, I don't necessarily see a Nik Dembski type player, although I think they do have one on the roster who eventually could become that guy. But I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, and I think something that's really fascinating too with a guy like Gary Peters, he's probably going to be at that cornerback spot. Although in 2023 in the Western Final, Ryan Phillips, with a game of that magnitude, Ryan Phillips said, "No, Gary, you're going to go shadow Kenny Lawler," and that's something that you never see in the PFL anymore. The DBs leaving their position to go follow somebody, but that means that if Gary's at his corner spot, Dalton Schoen and Nik Dembski are going to operate a lot of those slot back spots. So that means the pressure's on guys like Ronald Kent Jr. and Jalen Edwards-Cooper at their halfback spots. But I think where the advantage that BC has at those spots is these guys are quick and they're not afraid to hit too. I think when you look back, there was a game in 2023 in week 3 where the Lions went in and won 30-6 at Winnipeg. And that was a game where in the first quarter, there were several big hits. The Lions set the tone that they were going to be the more physical team and dominate. And I think if Ronald Kent and Jalen Edwards-Cooper can establish that early, that's going to go a long way into, getting a victory on Thursday.
Moj, you were out at practice, of course, on Tuesday, and Buck Pierce did his best to kind of downplay it, going back to Winnipeg. He's had all this success, and both professionally and personally. His wife and 2 kids in Winnipeg, of course. But this has to be, even if he's not saying it, this has to be a big deal for him, wouldn't you say?
It is. Of course it is. I mean, he spent how many years in Winnipeg? 12?
Better part, over a decade.
Yeah, I mean, over a decade as a coach.
Including as a player over a decade.
Yeah, I mean, his family is in Winnipeg. I believe his wife is from Winnipeg,
correct,
you mentioned. So it's going to be special. It's funny, we had a nice little laugh about the fact whether or not he's going to be feeling a little strange walking into the wrong side of the tunnel, I guess, going into the visitor's room rather than the homeroom. But he made a really good point. Once the game starts, it's a game, right? I mean, you're so into it, you're so focused, you're laser focused on what's happening on the field that you don't kind of really take in your environment. You might maybe during a timeout or maybe at halftime, maybe before the game, but once that whistle blows, All your attention is on the game and what's happening in the game.
I love that it's a chess match too, right? Because Buck Pierce obviously knows the Winnipeg defense, but Mike O'Shea and the Winnipeg staff know what Buck Pierce likes to do as tendencies. But
that's it.
I think where the advantage lies for Buck Pierce is that on offense, the defense has to react to the offense, right? So Buck Pierce sets the standard of what his offense is going to do, and the defense has to react to that. So kind of thinking 3D chess here, if Buck Pierce knows what if Buck Pierce thinks he knows what Winnipeg's gonna or what Buck is gonna do, Buck can add a wrinkle to that and cause misdirection.
The big thing is this: every defense has a weakness, right?
Yeah.
Every defense, no matter what defense you run, there will be a weakness in it. It's your job as an offensive coordinator, as a quarterback, to expose that weakness. And it's what Winnipeg decides to give up that the BC Lions have to exploit. And, that's what they're going to go out there and try to do, right? So we'll see how it goes. But, like we saw with the Lions offense in the second half against Edmonton, they did a great job of exposing the Elks. And I think you're going to see the same thing in Winnipeg. They're going to be looking for those spots in that Winnipeg defense that's weak. And I'm not talking personnel. I'm just talking about your basic scheme. And they're going to find a spot and they're going to try to exploit it. So we'll see how it goes.
One guy who we've mentioned already, you could tell early on last week, who you think and you hope might be utilized a bit more in this offense, is Javon Catoy. Could be a major X factor.
100%. Yeah. He should have had a touchdown last week, still finished with a really good day overall. And I think we were kind of joking about this too. We saw this a lot in training camp. We're kind of coining it the Winnipeg play. There was this play where Collaros rolls out to his right and the receiver on that side kind of runs like a little sit down route that Glenn Suter was referring to. And you're pretty much putting the offense in a bind, or the defense in a bind, sorry. And that's what Nathan Rourke and Buck Pierce were doing a lot. And we saw a lot of success. It was Javon Catoy finding those holes in the zones, and Keon Hatcher at times, Justin McInnes. And I think that's why BC operated at such a good rate on second down last week, was because Buck Pierce was calling up these plays where guys are finding open spots in zones and grabbing first downs and keeping moving the chains. And got to expect more of that as the season goes on.
Big Cat, number 86. Look for him to potentially talking about maybe having a new leader in this receiving core each and every week. Going to be interesting to find out. 7:30 CKNW, of course, has all the action. And the Lions Audio Network pregame beginning at 4:30 Pacific time on Thursday. Moj and Julio with the call at Princess Auto Stadium. We will head to Winnipeg in a matter of moments. Darrin Bauming is our guest this week from Bonfire Sports on First and Now, presented by World Vision Canada.
Summer's here and it's time to party, Lion style. Join the BC Lions on Saturday, June 21st at 4 p.m. as they take on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers for our first ever summer camp game. Celebrate the season with our pre-game backyard bash, complete with summer camp games, a campground cookout, and even s'mores. And don't miss the halftime grad walk honoring the class of 2025. Roar as one! Get your tickets now at bclions.com.
Off we go to beautiful Manitoba. Weather looks okay this week as well, as the Lions and Blue Bombers will renew hostilities. First of a home-and-home series. It's our pleasure to bring in to First and Now. Does fine work at Bonfire Sports. Formerly worked with TSN Radio, just like Moj and I. Moving on from that program, Darrin Bauming with us on the program. How you doing, sir?
I am well. Good to be with you guys. Good to be talking football again. Let's go.
Yeah, we last caught up at the Grey Cup, and I guess we'll kind of start there. What's the mood with the Blue Bombers on the heels of a third straight loss in the championship game, and of course dealing with the pressure, if you want to call it that, of being the host club this year?
Yeah, the mood, I'll be honest, I don't think they'll let it show too much, but no doubt it's ornery, right? They've been to 5 straight Grey Cup games. Maybe could have been 6 if you, because they won in 2019 and 2021, bookending that missed year due to the pandemic. But losing 3 straight, and you could almost argue that their team more complete in those final 3 Grey Cup appearances than the win in the first 2. I think they were pretty pissed off. I think they were, mad at themselves that they didn't get the job done. They let 3 straight games slipped through the cracks. And, the Blue Bombers have set a standard for the CFL. There's a reason why fans in Winnipeg love this team and more fans every day because they're a successful winning team. They sell out games like crazy, 33,000 plus will be expected for this game on Thursday. And I think they sold out the last 6 games of the season last year and the playoffs obviously as well. And a reason why, people across the league and across the country aren't such huge fans of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers because they're in the championship game every single year. There's changes. There's definitely new leadership within the Blue Bombers locker room amongst the players with the departure of Adam Bighill, of course. But this team, Mike O'Shea, if there was a word to describe him, it is stoic. Doesn't show his cards, doesn't want to talk, never even win or lose a Grey Cup or make the playoffs or not. He doesn't want to talk about last year. It's always about going 1-0 the next week. And I don't think they're letting the emotion show, but you read between the lines and you talk to the guys in a little bit more of a casual sense. They're pretty ornery that, they've lost 3 straight Grey Cup games and go into a season now where they host the Grey Cup. So the expectations only get higher. And I think the competition around the league is probably caught up, if anything, in 2025, especially in the West.
All right. You would talk about ornery. Let's get to it. Zach Collaros is suspended this game. Surprisingly, he's not suspended for the second game, which to me is a complete crock of crap. Pardon my French, but it is. He broke a rule. He didn't comply with the drug testing. I mean, the rule is the rule is the rule. And yet they make an exception saying, well, we have to improve the communication between the player and, allow the team to kind of act as an intermediary. It didn't seem to be a problem for how many years they did the drug testing and how many players got tested. And it was with Zach Collaros. All I'm saying is it was a rule. He broke it. He should have got 2 games. But the league, they, as they usually do, give the Bombers a little favor here and there, and they wind up allowing this guy to only have a 1-game suspension. Sorry, I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah, I don't completely disagree with you, but I will say that it's not just like the league's like, well, we should have done a better job. The league admitted that there is a flaw in that system and that they are changing the way that rule is enforced. So to catch people up quickly, in short, Zach Collaros was reached out to by the governing body that handles the performance enhancing drug testing for the Canadian Football League, and was reached out by email, by text, and by phone call within a 48-hour period or within a 24-hour period, and Collaros did not respond within 48 hours. The league has now realized that, well, if you get a text message from somebody saying, hi, my name's Bob and I'm from this organization and could you give me a call back? I don't know about you guys. Here in Manitoba, we get robocalls and spam calls all the time. This was in February. And I'm not making excuses for Collaros because he is suspended a game. It was originally going to be 2. I think the league just kind of said, well, let's kind of cut the difference in half. Collaros didn't want to push this, didn't want to put in an official appeal, and have this drag into the regular season. Offered both of his game checks, said, take the money from me, but I don't want to be suspended. That kind of, misalignment of communication between what the rule is going to be moving forward, which is they're going to do a better job of, having the team reach out to the individual if they can't get a hold of them. So
okay, I'll buy that.
Oh, it's my agent. Oh, it's the head coach calling me.
Yeah, I'll buy that. Okay, but it wasn't a problem until this specific circumstance. Yep. How many years have been doing the drug testing? This is the first time this popped up. And now all of a sudden we're going to make an exception and go from 2 games to 1 game. The other thing I'll say to that is that, props to Zach Collaros, right? I mean, he admitted that he did not respond to any of these requests. Mm-hmm. But to me, the issue is the fact that it's a 2-game suspension. And then they say, okay, we're going to change this rule, but we're only going to give you a we're going to give you a 1-game suspension. We're going to change the rule. No, I mean, if he broke the rule, it's a 2-game suspension. That's the end of the discussion. Sorry. And then change the rule, fine and dandy. But it wasn't an issue all the way up until now. So, they can say what they want. He can say what he wants. I see it I call it the way I see it.
Yeah, no doubt. And then the 2 games you will be calling are, the BC Lions against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in a home and home for Winnipeg to start this season. They had a bye in week 1. This game in week 2 in Winnipeg against the Lions will be Winnipeg's first game of the season. So, yeah, no doubt that 2-game suspension would have, definitely fallen in the BC Lions' favor. I imagine you could look at it a variety of different ways. Again, I don't completely disagree with where you're coming from. To remind people of just a few years ago when Andrew Harris, had a two positive tests for performance-enhancing drug. I was amongst, the voices pushing to hold him to account for that, even though, he claimed his innocence and that sort of thing. Zach Collaros did not shy away from this. He took full responsibility. He talked about setting an example for his children, and regardless of how fair or unfair he felt this ruling was, or the rule or the circumstances around it or whatever, especially with the rule now being changed because of this circumstance, that he takes responsibility for it. So he'll be on the sidelines on Thursday. Chris Streveler will start under center. And, it's going to be an interesting quarterback matchup with what I saw anyway, what everybody saw. Masterful performance by Nathan Rourke. So Buck Pierce and Nathan Rourke back in Winnipeg against the Blue Bombers without Zach Collaros. It's going to be interesting on Thursday, isn't it?
No doubt.
Very much so, yes.
Darrin, first off, good to see you, man. Excited to have football back, like you said. Second, let's get to Thursday. Moj got that off his chest.
I still got a lot left,
Okay,
trust me.
okay.
No,
we getting warmed up.
We love it. No, we love it.
But we've
Good.
established Zach Collaros will not be on the field on Thursday, but Chris Streveler will be. The tape we saw last year in Chris Streveler's one start, the Bombers ran the ball nearly 40 times for over 200 yards. Are you expecting that kind of offense with reigning MOP Brady Oliveira? Or do you think they're going to flex their muscles with Dalton Schoen being healthy, Carrick Wheatfall emerging? Or how do you see this all playing out from Winnipeg's offense?
Yeah, as an aside, quickly, I'm glad you mentioned Dalton Schoen. For my money, maybe the best receiver in the CFL today, if not top 3 for sure, and back healthy after, missing the majority of last season with, a major knee injury, and a real security blanket for this Blue Bombers offense. But that's the thing. You're asking me what I expect from this offense? Well, hey, Buck Pierce is now the BC Lions head coach. And, Winnipeg has a brand new offensive coordinator, somebody who has never held this position in professional football before. And that is Jason Hogan. He is a U Sports, Canadian University sport, graduate. He was a quarterback and, worked his way through the coaching ranks there before coming to the Blue Bombers just a handful of years ago. And he has Jarius Jackson, a proven commodity in this league, as kind of his right hand. But this is Jason Hogan's offense. And we finally got a chance to speak to the Blue Bombers' new offensive coordinator this week. We weren't allowed to talk to any coordinators in training camp. So this was our first opportunity to talk to him. And he kind of, was cut from that same Mike O'Shea cloth, and that is holding his cards very close to his vest and not wanting to share too much about what this offense will look like. He did say it will look different than any other offense in the Canadian Football League today. I don't think it's going to be something crazy foreign. I think they're going to stick with what works, and that is, of course, using physicality at the line of scrimmage. And the reigning CFL MOP and 2-time reigning West Division MOP, and that's Brady Oliveira. Very versatile running back that, very similar to James Butler, can work into the pass game, very effective runner, physical, great after contact. So, I really do think that, especially with Zach Collaros missing Thursday, it's going to be a lot of Brady Oliveira, a lot of, kind of misdirection and a lot of, using, physicality at the line of scrimmage to kind of dictate things on offense, because I don't think anybody expects Chris Streveler to beat a defense with his arm. They're going to get it done, with the short and the intermediate.
Couple more minutes with Darrin Bauming before he has to go out and walk the dogs. Do you expect this to be high scoring, low scoring? A lot is always made about how offenses kind of take a couple weeks to really get going. We saw the Lions struggle in the first half last week, but what's your crystal ball indicate?
Yes, maybe struggled to finish in the first half, but I thought they moved the ball incredibly effectively. As you guys know, and I talked to Nik quite a bit, and of course, Baker and you, MOJ, and Julio. I love talking to you guys when I get the chance to see you and hang out with you. You're amongst my favorites.
You're the only person in Winnipeg I like. So
yeah, right. Yeah, me and the dog, right? Because she's saying hello.
Well, I don't know about the dog. It sounded like a lap dog, but anyway.
My mom is very offended right now, MOJ.
But, I'm a huge fan of Nathan Rourke. You guys all know that, and really happy to see him back in the league and playing at that level we all know he was capable of. It's fascinating here in Winnipeg, quarterback conversation always at the forefront, because prior to Zach Collaros, this was a kind of barren wasteland of quarterbacking for a long time. So, some fans feel like 2022 was a bit of a flash in the pan. Others, feel, and also feel that last season when Rourke came back, that was an indicator that, maybe it was a flash in the pan. I don't buy that for a second. He looks athletic and dynamic and so dangerous with his arm and his legs, and, not shying away from contact either. The way he was able to finish some of those runs in week one, very impressive. And I'm frankly proud and happy for this league to see Nathan Rourke at that level. So to answer your question, if Winnipeg wants to keep pace, yeah, I fully expect this to be a high scoring game. The weather's going to be good. We've had a incredible spring here in Winnipeg, unlike last year. I mean, first round of the playoffs, with the Jets and the Blues, and then the Jets and the Stars, visiting media, from the United States and Canada coming up here saying, wow, this is Winnipeg. It's been absolutely gorgeous. And as I mentioned, sellout expected, at Princess Auto Stadium, the newly coined Princess Auto Stadium here in Winnipeg. So the crowd's going to be into it. But Rourke versus Winnipeg in their home opener, yeah, I think it's going to probably be a very high scoring game. I'm looking forward to it.
Hey, I'm going to bookend this. The way I started is the way I'm going to finish. Like the CFL favoritism towards the Bombers, only giving Collaros a one-game suspension. The Bombers are coming off a bye week this week. They will play the Lions coming off a bye, just like they did the year before, the year before that, the year before that, and the year before that. 5 years in a row, the Bombers have played the Lions coming off a bye. That's just pure coincidence, Darrin.
Wow.
Coincidence.
Didn't know that. See, it's you play-by-play guys that dig up that stuff, because, you book your hotel rooms and you know exactly what's happening with the home and the visiting team. So that's interesting.
Yes, isn't it?
He's got a good research department up there in the broadcast booth.
I bet he does, yeah.
All right, 30 seconds or less. What's another big X factor we haven't talked about that maybe to watch out for? 30 seconds or less.
Yeah, I mean, you could talk about receiver here in Winnipeg and some of the changes that they've made there. Kenny Lawler obviously departing for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, but I look at the Blue Bombers defense, James Vaughters joining Willie Jefferson at the line of scrimmage, a very revamped, new-looking linebacker core, and a lot of familiar faces in the defensive secondary, but a new safety. There'll be a new kick returner, and obviously a lot of changes on special teams with, some veterans moving on one way or another from Winnipeg. But, hey, it's the Blue Bombers. Really, you can expect them to be very similar from year to year to year because, MOJ, you go back, like you were saying, the year before that, this Blue Bombers team kind of plays that same brand of football, no matter what, no matter what the roster is or the situation may be.
Well said, my friend. Go attend to your furry friend there, and we'll very much look forward to catching up on Thursday. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. She's a killer, MOJ. Look out.
Yeah.
All the best, Darrin. I love talking football with you.
Absolutely, guys.
Now we know why she's barking. So Darrin Bauming from Bonfire Sports in Winnipeg. Check him out. And we're back to talk more Lions Bombers on First and Now. Back on First and Now. Final segment on this Tuesday evening. Lions and Blue Bombers coming up on Thursday. The last game of week one, the first game of week two. Interesting scheduling, but we'll take it. We'll be on the plane on Wednesday to Manitoba. All right. Nik Kowalski's world-famous trivia from Brandon to Biloxi.
I like that.
There we go.
So we talked about it lots throughout this show. The obvious connection between the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and the BC Lions, Mr. Head Coach Buck Pierce. So this trivia is all about Buck Pierce. So I'm gonna warm you guys up though. You guys did well last week, but I'm gonna give you a nice warm up one. So I'm gonna quiz you guys on it.
No, I wasn't too happy with my performance.
Okay, yeah, you always strive for greatness, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the warm up. So if you guys watch an Arrow Up, you'd remember this. But Buck Pierce, what was his fun fact? He mentioned that he holds a high school record. What was it?
Basketball record.
Yeah,
was it not?
Yeah, you're on there.
Most points for his high school in a career, something like that.
Yeah, you're close. Do you remember? Free throws record, most consecutive free throws.
Yeah.
That was Buck Pierce's fun fact. Go watch Arrow Up if you haven't yet, too.
Documentary, by the way, highly endorsed. By
Coach Corey had the best fun fact.
Yeah. That's
we
why I had to make
watch it. Yeah.
All right. Let's get some trivia going
here with a penal institution.
Yes. All right. How many days was Buck Pierce employed by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers? I manually tracked this today. So I have the number.
Oh, so that's the question you're talking about. We were teasing.
Yeah, you were guessing.
As just a head coach, but as a quarterback as well.
I'm talking employed by the organization.
Well,
so
does that include
as a player and a coach?
I would probably say 12, 14, 15 times 3. I'm going to go somewhere like about 51,263 days.
Okay.
You're way too high. I'm going to say that right now. 51,000 days is a lot of years.
I'm going to go 7,922 days.
You guys are both over. It's 5,000 and on.
That's what I meant. The math was bad.
Yeah. I think you added a zero.
I added a zero. That was my problem. It was like, that's what, like, I figured, like, 15,
just
say
over
15, 16 times 365. So it was about 48. So it was like just over 5,000. So if I would have just taken off a zero, I would have
been bang on.
Would have been right there.
Yeah.
All right. Same question.
Bad math.
Same question, but for the BC Lions. How many days has Buck Pierce been employed by the BC Lions as a player and as a coach?
65 times.
I'd probably say 1,452.
1,831.
Baker is very close. The answer, including today, is 1,949 days.
Whoa,
So
okay.
Baker is very close.
Remember, he came back for a second stint.
That's what I didn't
forget it. Yeah.
Yep.
That's why you got that one.
Yeah.
Good job.
All right. Career touchdown passes for BC and Winnipeg. Let's see what you guys got for answers.
Career touchdown pass.
72
You're going total?
total.
For BC
And Winnipeg.
Okay.
I'm going to go 72.
86.
Point for Moj, it's 76. So you're right on. That was 48 for the BC Lions and 28 for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Who caught Buck Pierce's first touchdown?
Leroy Simon.
2005 has happened, August. Leroy Simon is incorrect.
Ooh.
Harris Jackson.
Tony Simmons.
Oh, you got it's kind of a prominent name. It's Antonio Warren.
Oh, Antonio
Warren got the first touchdown pass. Which year did Buck Pierce pass for the most yards in his career?
2008.
2007.
This guy's got to go higher.
2010.
2009.
Higher.
2000 for career, not the Lions.
Just in his career, yes.
2011.
2011.
Winnipeg.
Blue Bombers.
Yeah. Winnipeg.
Iconic season.
I thought you said Lions.
Sorry. As in his career, when he lost the Grey Cup to the BC Lions, very ironic spin there.
Yeah.
How about this? Because we watched this play a lot, Baker. Buck Pierce's longest rush in his career. What was it? How many yards?
74.
Okay, we oversold him a bit, but it's an iconic play.
65.
Was that 48-yard rush? Remember against Edmonton?
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think we've talked about it on the podcast, but we used to in
Point per Moj, yeah.
In Kamloops, so we used to go and
we watched.
highlight
We fell down quite a rabbit hole in Kamloops one night a couple of years ago,
and
not knowing he would be our next head coach.
Yeah, and it was that crazy run against Edmonton right before halftime in 2011. I was there, so I remember it like it was yesterday. All right, how many active teammates does Buck Pierce have on Winnipeg and on BC? And you can name them.
Active.
So players that Buck Pierce played with on the BC Lions and players that Buck Pierce played with on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
That are active players.
Yeah, these guys are still active. Yep. There's two.
Two.
Sean White.
Sean White is the correct one for the BC Lions.
And then I would go with probably Willie Jefferson.
Stanley Bryant.
Willie Jefferson and Stanley Bryant are incorrect answers. Brown would be closer, but
Not Mike Benson.
I think a long tenured guy.
Mike Miller.
Oh, Jake Thomas.
Jake Thomas, Moj got it. Yeah, they were teammates in 2013, Bucks last year with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. All right, I'll see if you guys know this one. This is something I knew because I lived in Winnipeg when this was going on. But what was the name of Buck Pierce's restaurant in Winnipeg?
529 Wellington.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably wish.
Smokey's Barbecue, something like
That's
that.
very close.
Yeah,
It was Danny. And there's actually two answers that I was going to accept for this because I was looking online and then
Restaurant in Winnipeg?
yeah,
He had a barbecue joint. Yeah.
Yeah, one of his I think it was a friend that he partnered with, and he owned the restaurant, so they called it. His buddy's name was Danny, so they called it Danny and Buck's Eatery. But before that, it was called Danny's Whole Hog Barbecue and Smokehouse.
Is it still around?
I don't think so. But
No,
they
he's
used
not
to-
involved with it anymore.
And
No.
Buck's not involved, and I don't think the restaurant is either. But they used to sell the barbecue items at the Canadians and what was it called at the time? IG Field or Investors Group Field. So
Well, who's Khan had his barbecue place?
yeah, Shawarma Khan. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was a
yeah,
good place
that's
too.
good, yeah.
So lots of good food options.
The only
too.
place in
Yeah.
Winnipeg is 529 Wellington.
That is a very good answer. I will
Never
agree with
been.
you. Well, you guys are talking
Nice steakhouse.
too, right?
It's like a mansion. Go there instead of Highs. Support local.
Well, I was telling these guys because
Just might.
they're looking to go with our graphic designer Carter tomorrow, who's based out in Winnipeg, and I was saying Wednesday in Winnipeg, it's Shark Club Wing Night. That's usually where I would go.
Works for me. Are we done? Is that the last question?
That's the last question.
Okay,
I wasn't.
there you go.
I think the winner. It might be a tie. Actually,
I think Moj had the edge.
I had a
there,
good
but
trivia question last week.
What was that?
How many BC Lion quarterbacks, ex-BC Lion quarterbacks, are in the top 10 of the Edmonton Elks passing?
Mike Riley,
1,
Matt Dunnigan.
2,
How many more
You
are
got
there?
this
Damon Allen,
Damon Allen,
Yeah,
of
Nicky
course.
Parker,
Jackie Parker.
Tom Wilkinson.
Yeah. Tom. Yeah, you forget about Tom Wilkinson.
Yeah. And then the other way, how many Edmonton Elks quarterbacks are in the BC top 10? There's only one, Damon Allen. That's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Mike Riley's not top 10.
No.
No.
Yeah, I guess not long enough.
I think, you know what, though? Judging by the work and stuff I've done with the all-time records, he's close. He would have been close had he played another year.
Because 10's
So-
not too high to get to. I actually saw.
Buck Pierce is in the top 10,
Yeah, I
all
believe he is,
Lions. Yep. In yards and passes.
I did see a graphic about Canadian quarterbacks last week, obviously, because there was a big storyline with Trey Ford and Nathan Rourke. But Russ Jackson's records, or he holds all-time records for most passing yards, most passing touchdowns, all of that. Nathan Rourke and Trey Ford have the careers we all think they're going to have. Like, they're going to be competing for those top 2 spots sooner than later.
And you know what's interesting about Nathan Rourke? The single game Canadian passing record was held by Jerry DiTilio. Nathan broke that in that 2022 season opener.
The Toronto game.
Or the Toronto game. And then 2 or 3 more times he broke his own record again. So
Yeah, that was a year.
all right, that was, but we've got to exceed that for sure. Of course, we haven't mentioned this is the first of a home and home series between the Lions and the Blue Bombers. Saturday, June 21st, 4:00 kickoff. We're calling it summer camp. It's a full day of family fun at Save on Foods Field at BC Place. More than just football, the ultimate summer outing. It's packed with entertainment for fans of all ages, kid-friendly activities. Camping is the theme. Whether you're a longtime fan or just looking for a fun event to bring the whole family to, the game has something for everyone. Don't miss the chance to soak up the sun, cheer loud, and make some great summer memories. Tickets at bclions.com. The backyard party presented by PlayNow Sports will get underway at noon sharp. Marshmallow s'mores Moj. It's a camping theme. Great food and drink deals, family-friendly entertainment, and it's a vibrant atmosphere beginning at noon. And hopefully we're talking about the opportunity to win a home-and-home series. So let's get through the first one first. But first 4 games against Western foes here overall. So
Better come out of the gate firing.
final thoughts, Nikki?
I'm just excited to go back to Winnipeg. I always like going to these hostile.
What?
I like going to these
That's
hostile
his town,
it's
man.
fun. Like you said, a surgical operation going in, going out. We've had a lot of success there actually early in the season these last 2 years. So let's make it a trifecta.
All right, 1-0 Lions facing the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Again, the season opener for Winnipeg. They had the week 1 bye, first and only regular season trip to Princess Auto Stadium, and it's going to be a good one. 7:30 CKNW has the call. Pregame at 4:30 with Moj and Julio. Postgame, of course, running after this one. Hopefully, talking about another Lions win. Thanks, fellas. We'll see you in the peg. This is fun. Thanks to Darrin Bauming for joining the program. And thanks to you, the listener, for tuning into First and Now, presented by World Vision Canada. Back next Tuesday.
School's out and summer's here. Kick it off with the BC Lions Summer Camp Game. Saturday, June 21st at 4 p.m. versus Winnipeg. Backyard games, s'mores, a halftime grad walk. It's the ultimate summer party. Get your tickets at bclions.com.
All right, and for you podcast listeners, a bit of a bonus as always. It is an honor to bring in our friend Cam Tucker from BCLC and PlayNow.com for our Between the Lines segment. And we've talked a lot about Nathan Rourke's solid Week 1 performance, Offensive Player of the Week in the Canadian Football League. And as a result, some of his MOP odds have changed. We'll get to that. But first, Cameron, we saw you on the big screen, living it up, having a good time. How'd you love the home opener?
I thought the home opener was great. And I mean, it started with the Snoop show. I was outside at 4 o'clock in the afternoon outside BC Place at Terry Fox Plaza. Place was bumping. You could feel the energy among the people that were there. It was packed already. The Snoop show was awesome. Just a great energy to bring to the stadium. For the first game of the season. And then look, I thought that once the game got underway, it was, I thought the Lions showed a lot of mental maturity, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't think that the first half went the way that they wanted to. I think, 3 mistakes that cost them at least 11 points on the board, if not more. And you think for a team in the first game with the amount of change that's happened in the offseason, how is this going to go the rest of the way? And I thought in the second half, they dominated. They executed at an elite level. They converted well on second down. I just think that they did a lot of really good things well on both sides of the ball. Nathan Rourke is obviously going to get the headlines, and I think deservedly so. But you look at that defense, Matthew Betts was excellent. They got pressure on the quarterback. They limited Edmonton's running backs to, I think it was like 29 yards over 10 carries. That's really good. Like that's helping stop the run game. Trey Ford obviously was able to use his legs to his advantage, running the ball. But for the most part, that Edmonton offense was kept in check, and the defense deserves a lot of credit for that as well. So I thought on both sides of the ball, they really executed their game plan at a high level, and I think that was a promising sign for the season, because after that first half, I think, how is this going to go? It was a little bit deflating towards the end of the first half. In the second half, they forgot all about it and played it a really good, solid game all the way through.
So Cam, obviously being football coaches, a lot of part about their game is evaluation and reflecting on the past week's performance. Same goes for PlayNow, and we're hearing that some MOP odds have changed for Nathan Rourke after his Week 1 performance. What can you tell us about Nathan Rourke's movement when it comes to the most outstanding player?
Yeah, Nathan Rourke started the season. We talked about this in the very first podcast back in the middle of May. Nathan Rourke's odds to win the most outstanding player were 8.0 on PlayNow. Those odds after the first game have shifted considerably. He's now the favorite. He went from having the second best odds to now he's the favorite after Week 1. Odds of 4.25 right now at PlayNow. And, guys, I thought the one thing that struck me about the way that he played was his decision-making was quick, but it was accurate as well. Like there maybe 1 or 2 throws where he thought maybe that was not the greatest throw, but for the most part, his decision-making was quick. His throws were accurate. I thought his presence in the pocket was very good in terms of realizing there was pressure, being able to waggle out of it. He was very difficult to tackle. And then when he did have that room to run, you saw the kind of damage that he can do with his legs. So I think that it was appropriate that the line moved so significantly after the first week and moved him up into the favorite for this award. And that was the kind of game that I think a lot of people were expecting from Nathan Rourke. We've seen his ability. We see the levels that he can reach, and he's had Edmonton's number since he came into the league. So it was kind of the perfect storm for Nathan Rourke. He played an excellent game, thought he managed the football well, and in the second half made some really good throws for those touchdown passes. So, at the end of the day, I mean, over 300 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. He had over 50 yards on the ground. Pretty appropriate that his odds to win most outstanding player moved as much as they did.
All right, week 2, Lions, Blue Bombers. What are the early lines looking like on PlayNow?
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised at first glance to see that the Lions opened as 2.5-point favorites on the road against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But then you look at the quarterback situation in Winnipeg. Zach Collaros is out serving the suspension. And so Chris Streveler is going to, looks to be the starter for that week 2 game. So, at first glance, definitely was surprised. And then, you look into it and okay, the Bombers are without their starting quarterback. So definitely, I think that that's what pushed the line, obviously, in the favor of the Lions. And this is going to, I think, right out of the gate, be a measuring stick game for this team. They looked really good against Edmonton. I think that they could have easily hit 40 points in that game against the Elks. But now you get a real test. Now you go on the road. It's a short week. Winnipeg has had the Lions number for the better part of the last few years. They're 7-3. The Bombers are 7-3 against the spread versus the BC Lions in their last 10 matchups. So the Bombers have had the Lions number here, but this is a chance for this Lions team after a really good first step against Edmonton to prove that they belong as contenders in the West Division. And if you look at the West Division odds going into this game, now it's kind of all bundled together. Saskatchewan's actually the favorite to win the West Division regular season. Winnipeg has the second best odds. BC has the third best odds, but they're really close. So I think that shows just how tight this division is going to be. So this is a very important game for the Lions, and I think that even on a short week of preparation this early in the season, I don't think that should hamper them too much.
All right, Cam, time for the main event. Week 2 boost on PlayNow.com. What do you got cooking up?
Yeah, so I was looking at this the other day. So I once the lines came out and I saw the Lions were the favorites, I thought, okay, even though they have not had the run of success against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers over the last 10 games, they did look very good against Edmonton. So I'm going to take the BC Lions money line. I'm going to parlay that with over 25.5 points for the BC Lions. And we're going to add Justin McInnis, 80-plus receiving yards. Was a little bit surprised, I guess, at how things may have transpired in the first half. I don't believe he had a target in the first half against Edmonton, but in the second half, 5 targets, 5 catches, 49 yards, and a touchdown. So he looked very effective, obviously, in that second half when the ball was thrown his way. So I definitely think that he's going to have a bigger presence in the offense in week 2. And we've seen when Justin McInnis is at the top of his game, I mean, this guy can put up some very lofty numbers as a receiver, as a star receiver for the Lions. So that's my thinking. I think that he's going to have a breakout game for this season. So we're adding Justin McInnis 80-plus yards to this boost, and we'll look for it on site closer to game time.
All right. You heard it there. Love it. Cam Tucker joining us once again. BCLC, PlayNow.com. Very quickly, what else you got cooking?
Yeah, so right now, just kind of looking over the lines. I was looking at the Saskatchewan Roughriders. They're favored against Hamilton this week. I thought Saskatchewan looked really good, but they're also dealing with some injuries, and they've moved to the top in the West Division odds for the season. They're now the favorite to win the West Division. And then the other game that I have my eye on right now is Calgary against the Toronto Argonauts. The Argos did not look very good in week 1. I thought Calgary, Vernon Adams, where can he improve and how far can he take his game? And then there's also the status of the quarterback situation in Toronto. When does Chad Kelly get in and reassert himself into this offense? So there's a couple of things that I'm keeping my eye on. Right now, Calgary is a 3-point underdog against the Argos in week 2. But that's a really interesting game because I thought Calgary exceeded expectations in that first game. And that was without Vernon Adams playing his best. So I definitely think that that's an interesting game to look at, considering we don't quite know the quarterback situation in Toronto.
Yeah, all 4 games have pretty good storylines this week. Of course, Montreal and Ottawa will lock horns on Friday night. All right, my friend, excellent job as always, and we look forward to not only talking next week again, but seeing you on the Jumbotron again.
Yeah.
One of the highlights of the game.
Just
all right.
giving people what they want, right?
Love it, Cam.
Thanks,
Appreciate
sir.
it as always.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Jets. Talk soon.